What if, right now, at this exact moment, while most people are distracted, scrolling endlessly through social media, jumping from one short video to another, replying to messages, or simply going through another ordinary day, something much bigger is quietly unfolding beneath the surface of the global financial system. Not loudly, not dramatically, not in a way that immediately captures attention, but slowly, precisely, and almost invisibly, Bitcoin is moving again. And what makes this moment so fascinating is not how big the movement is, it's how quiet it feels. Because if you've spent enough time watching markets, if you've experienced even one full cycle, you begin to understand something that most people never fully grasp. The most important phases of any market are the ones that feel the least exciting. The phases where nothing seems obvious, where nothing feels urgent, where everything appears calm, almost too calm. Because that calm is often where everything begins. Every major Bitcoin bull run in history. Every explosive rally that created headlines, that pulled millions of new people into the market, that transformed early participants into massive winners, never started with excitement, it started with silence. A silence that feels almost deceptive. A silence where price doesn't crash, but also doesn't explode. A silence where interest fades, where people lose patience, where the majority begins to believe that nothing meaningful is happening anymore. But beneath that silence, something is always building. Smart money begins to accumulate, quietly, patiently, without attracting attention. They don't move when things are obvious. They don't chase hype. They move early, because they understand something simple. By the time the crowd arrives, the opportunity is no longer early. And right now, we may be standing in that exact phase again. Think about the past months. Fear dominated the narrative. Headlines questioned the future of crypto. Many people walked away, convinced that the opportunity had already passed. But markets don't move based on what the majority believes. They move based on what the majority fails to see. And that's what makes this moment so important, because while most people are waiting for confirmation, waiting for headlines, waiting for someone to say, now it's safe, the market may already be shifting, quietly, strategically, almost invisibly. If you look at Bitcoin today, it might not feel like anything significant is happening. There's no massive breakout, no explosive headlines, no overwhelming hype. And that's exactly why this moment is so easy to ignore, because markets rarely look exciting at the beginning of something important. They look uncertain. They look slow. They look almost boring. But if you step back and observe more carefully, you begin to notice subtle changes. After periods of volatility, after corrections driven by fear, after waves of uncertainty that pushed many people out of the market, Bitcoin is beginning to stabilize, not dramatically, but steadily, and in a market known for chaos. Stability is not something to ignore, because markets don't move from fear directly into explosion, they transition. First comes fear, then uncertainty, then curiosity, and eventually, confidence. Right now, we are somewhere between uncertainty and curiosity. And this phase is incredibly important because it's where most people hesitate. They're watching, but not acting. They're aware, but not convinced. They're waiting. But by the time things feel certain, the opportunity is often already smaller because markets reward those who act early, not those who wait for confirmation. And if you look closely, Bitcoin's behavior right now is not random. It's structured, measured, controlled. Sell-offs are less aggressive. Recoveries are more consistent, and these are signals that experienced investors pay attention to because they've seen this before. Bitcoin moves in cycles. It always has. First comes accumulation, where everything feels quiet, then expansion, where momentum begins to build, then euphoria, where everyone talks about it, and finally, correction. And right now, many believe we are moving out of accumulation and slowly entering expansion. So why now? Why is Bitcoin starting to move again? Because multiple forces are aligning. Global economic uncertainty is rising. Inflation continues to affect everyday life. Traditional financial systems feel less predictable. And when that happens, people start looking for alternatives. Bitcoin becomes one of them. At the same time, institutions are entering the space. Not loudly, not emotionally, but strategically. They study, they accumulate, they position themselves early, and because of their size, even small movements can have big impact. And then there's scarcity. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. No more. As demand grows, supply does not, and over time, that imbalance creates pressure. Slow at first, but powerful. And then there's one more factor, the halving, every 4 years. The supply of new Bitcoin is reduced. Less supply, entering the market. And historically, this has been followed by major bull runs, not instantly, but gradually. Patterns don't guarantee the future, but they tell a story. And right now, the story is beginning to look familiar, but beyond data, beyond charts, beyond economics, there is something even more important. Psychology. Markets are driven by human emotion, fear, greed, doubt, hope. Right now, many people are still cautious. They remember losses, they remember uncertainty, and because of that, they hesitate. But that hesitation is what creates opportunity. Because the biggest moves don't start when everyone is confident. They start when confidence is low, when belief is fragile, when most people are still unsure. And as the market begins to move, slowly, quietly, curiosity turns into attention. Attention turns into excitement, and excitement turns into urgency. That's when things accelerate. But let's be real, this is not guaranteed. Bitcoin is volatile. It can rise fast and fall even faster. There are risks. Regulation, global events, market manipulation. All of these can impact price. So this is not about blind belief. It's about awareness, understanding both opportunity and risk. So what are smart investors doing right now? They're not chasing hype. They're not waiting for headlines. They're observing, positioning themselves slowly because they understand. The real gains are made before the crowd arrives, not after. They focus on timing, not perfection, because perfection doesn't exist in markets, only probability and positioning. So where does this go from here? No one knows for sure. But the signals are there. The patterns are forming, and the market is beginning to shift. This could be the early stage of something much bigger, or it could be a transition before the real move. But one thing is clear. Bitcoin is not standing still, and the real question is not just, what will Bitcoin do next? The real question is, what will you do if it does? Will you wait until everything feels safe, until everyone is talking about it again, or will you pay attention now while things are still quiet? Because by the time the noise returns, the biggest opportunity may already be gone, and in this market, timing is everything.